Hello everyone, welcome to ITLS Academy. Our topic is contamination of non-sterile pharmaceuticals in hospital and community environments. So, let's start. Very first topic is introduction. We will see some basic things regarding pharmaceutical products and their contamination. First point is pharmaceutical products are used in a variety of ways in the prevention, treatment, and diagnosis of disease. Microbial contamination of pharmaceutical preparations is a common problem which has been reported for several non-sterile medicaments. Next point is in recent years, manufacturers of pharmaceuticals have improved the quality of non-sterile products such that today the majority contain only a minimal microbial population. The majority of contaminants of pharmaceutical products and ingredients are bacteria, yeast, and filamentous fungi, or we can say molds. Third point is although the occurrence of product contamination has been well documented in medical literature, the significance for the patient has not always been clear. Evidence accumulated in the past 30 years or so has, however, enabled a better understanding of why and how contamination occurs, its extent and frequency, the factors determining the outcome for the patient, and finally, what preventive steps may be taken to control the problem. This was all about a brief introduction for the contaminant products and pharmaceuticals. Next comes the significance of microbial contaminants or microbial contamination. Spoilage. First point is it has been known for many years that microbial contaminants may affect the spoilage of pharmaceutical products through chemical, physical, or aesthetic changes in the nature of the product, thereby rendering it unfit for use. Active drug constituents may be metabolized to less potent or chemically inactive forms. Next point, physical changes commonly seen are the breakdown of emulsions, visible surface growth on solids, and the formation of slimes, pellicles, or sediments in liquids. Sometimes accompanied by the production of gas, odor, or unwanted flavors, thereby rendering the product unacceptable and possibly even dangerous to the patient. We can say that finally spoilage and subsequent wastage of a product have serious economic implications for the manufacturer. First one significance was spoilage and next one is hazard to health. Very first point is nowadays it is well recognized that a contaminated pharmaceutical product may also present a potential health hazard to the patient. Although isolated outbreaks of medicament related infections have been reported since the early part of this century, it is only in the past 3 decades or so that the significance of this contamination to the patient has been more fully understood. Next point, it is a fortunate hospital physician who can, at an early stage, recognize contamination manifest as a cluster of infections of rapid onset, such as that following the use of a contaminated intravenous fluid in a hospital ward. Once recognized, there is, of course, a moral obligation to withdraw the offending product, and here subsequent investigations of the incidents therefore become retrospective. Next point, contaminants isolated from products have ranged from true pathogens such as Clostridium tetani to opportunist pathogens such as Pseudomonas aeruginosa and other free-living gram-negative organisms which are capable of causing disease under special circumstances. Undoubtedly, we can say that the most serious effects have been seen with contaminated injected products where generalized bacteremic shock and in some cases death of patient has been reported. Here some processes of control for the contamination are given in a flow chart. You can see first one is compounding, next one is processing and another one is packaging. These can help in controlling the contamination. receiving and storage, dispensing, and acquirement. By the help of packaging, you can also control contamination, processing in the formation of and the process of formation contaminants can also help controlling contamination. Next comes the sources of contamination. So now we will see what are the main sources from where contamination can be occur. First point is the same principles of contamination control apply whether manufacture takes place in industry or on a smaller scale. Remember, the principles of contamination control will remain same whether manufacture takes place in industry or on a smaller scale in the hospital pharmacy. Particularly water and those animal origins have high contamination. Quality must be built into the product at all stages of the process. This is a very important point that quality must be maintained at all the stages and not simply assessed at the end of manufacture. Some sources of contamination are given. You can see like raw materials, and these are a source of a high microbiological standard. Next is all processing equipment should be subject to planned preventive maintenance and should be properly cleaned after use. And this is to prevent cross contamination between batches. Next point, manufacture should take place in suitable premises in a clean, tidy work area supplied with filtered air. Next one, staff involved in manufacture should not only have good health but also a sound knowledge of the importance of personal and production hygiene. Next point, the end product requires suitable packaging, and this packaging will protect it from contamination during its shelf life and is itself free from contamination. Let's see some sources of contamination in detail. First one is water. Means water in hospitals is frequently stored in large roof tanks, some of which may be relatively inaccessible and poorly maintained. Next point, Water for pharmaceutical manufacture requires some further treatment. These treatments are usually by distillation, reverse osmosis, or deionization, or a combination of all these. And this is depending on the intended use of water. Storage of water requires particular care since some gram-negative opportunist pathogens can survive on traces of organic matter present in treated water and will readily multiply at room temperature. Water should therefore be stored at a temperature in excess of 80 degrees centigrade and circulated in the distribution system at a flow rate of 1 to 2 meter per second to prevent the buildup of bacterial biofilms in the piping. Another source of contamination is environment. The microbial flora of the pharmacy environment is a reflection of the general hospital environment and the activities undertaken there. Free living opportunistic pathogens such as Pseudomonas aeruginosa can normally be found in all wet sites such as drains, sinks, and taps. Next point, contamination levels in the production environment may, however, be minimized by observing good manufacturing practices by installing heating traps in sink U-bends, thus destroying one of the main reservoirs of contaminants, and by proper maintenance and storage of equipment including cleaning equipment. Packaging is the another source for the contamination. Let's see it in detail. Very first point is sacking, cardboard, card liners, cork and paper are unsuitable for packaging pharmaceuticals. Remember these names, that is sacking, cardboard, card liners, cork and paper. These are unsuitable as they are heavily contaminated, for example with bacterial or fungal spores. Large numbers of containers may be returned to the pharmacy, bringing with them microbial contaminants introduced during use in the wards. Another common practice in hospitals is the repackaging of products purchased in bulk into smaller containers. Next is in-use source of contamination. Pharmaceutical manufacturers may justly argue that their responsibility ends with the supply of a well preserved product of high microbiological standard in a suitable pack, and that the subsequent use or indeed abuse of the product is of little concern to them. The sources of contamination are the same whether products are used in hospitals or in the community environment. But opportunities for observing it are of course greater in the former, that is, in hospitals. Next source for the contamination is human sources. During normal uses, the patient may contaminate his or her medicine with his or her own microbial flora. As we know that human body has their own natural or normal flora. So he can or she can contaminate his or her medicine with by her own microbial flora. Subsequent use of the product may or may not result in the self-infection. Topical products are considered to be most at risk since the product will probably be applied by hand, thus introducing contaminants from the resident skin flora. Next point, in hospitals, multi-dose products, once contaminated, may serve as a vehicle of cross-contamination or cross-infection between patients. These unpreserved products will allow multiplication of contaminants, especially if water is present, either as a part of the formulation, for example, in oil or water emulsions, as a film in water oil emulsion, which have undergone local cracking, or as a condensed film from atmospheric water, and appreciable numbers may then be transferred to other patients when these are reused. Next comes environmental sources. Small numbers of airborne contaminants may settle out in products left open to the atmosphere. Large numbers of waterborne contaminants may be accidentally introduced into topical products by wet hands or by a splashback mechanism if left at the sides of a basin. Next point, products used in hospitals as soap substitutes for bathing patients are particularly at risk and soon not only become contaminated with opportunist pathogens such as Pseudomonas species, but also provide conditions conducive for their multiplication. The indigenous microbial population is quite different in the home and in hospitals. Pathogenic organisms are found much more frequently in the latter, that is, in the hospital, and consequently are isolated more often from medicines used in hospitals. Next source for the contamination is equipment sources. Patients and nursing staff may use a range of applicators like pads, sponges, brushes, and spatulas, and these are used during medicament administration, particularly for topical products. Disposable applicators or swabs should therefore always be used so that there are less chances for contamination of patient exist. Next point, in hospitals today, a wide variety of complex equipment is used in the course of patient treatment. Humidifiers, incubators, ventilators, resuscitators, and other apparatus require proper maintenance and decontamination after use. Chemical disinfectants used for this purpose have in the past through misuse become contaminated with opportunistic pathogens such as most common opportunist pathogen Pseudomonas aeruginosa and ironically have contributed to rather than reduced the spread of cross infection in hospital patients. You can see here contamination control strategies are given. uh, you can see cleaning and disinfection, water, equipment, utilities, materials, personals, facilities, building design, access to areas and manufacturing process and HVAC or HVAC system. These can play a major role in the contamination control strategy. So thank you very much guys for watching this session. We have completed all the sources of contamination. Rest part of this topic we will discuss in our next lecture. So stay connected with ITLS Academy. Follow ITLS Academy on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, YouTube and LinkedIn. For latest videos and updates, you can subscribe ITLS Academy on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, then like, share and subscribe ITLS Academy. Thank you very much.